Welcome to the Stacks, arguably the coolest part of the library because we keep all the old things here. This shelf houses the Berea collection and the Mountain collection, which are all print materials. Lining the walls are several shelves with different materials, and we'll get to those later. These are the stacks. We have a closed stack policy here, which means that our workers must come and get the items for people in the research room. We usually keep the stacks closed at night, except for two ranges. The first is between Mountain 399 and Mountain 400, and the second is the range at the very end where historical collection and unprocessed materials are. But how do you get in here? I really want a book. Well, you'll have to push one of these buttons here. To get in between Mountain 973.05 and Mountain Oversize, you'll want to push the button to the right. This will close the other stack while opening the one that you want. And the best part is that there are sensors. So the second that somebody steps in between the aisles, or the sensor notices that somebody is still in the aisle, it quits moving. Once they leave, then you can push the button again and the stacks will finish opening. This ensures that no one dies, which is pretty good. So then you can come into the stacks, find the item you're looking for, and take it back to the reading room. Pay special attention to the labels on each of the stacks. That way you're not misshelving an item. The very first contains the entire Berea collection and part of Mountain, and then Mountain goes on for several more shelves. Mountain Oversize, which is full of large books from the Mountain collection, has its own shelf. And then the Mountain periodicals, which are the bound volumes that belong in the Mountain collection. Then you have the Lincoln collection, all on its own, and Curio. Curio happens to be my favorite part of special collections. Because really, just look how old these things are. Curio has several shelves, and it also has its own oversized shelf. The oversized Curio and oversized Berea College Archive shelf does not move, so you must use one of the other buttons to access it. It's our sole stationary shelf. Curio Oversized collection is generally organized by Dewey Decimal Number, but some things may be out of order due to their size. Sometimes you have a little bit of trouble with the shelves, and they're not moving. The lights aren't even on. If that's the case, you'll come to this shelf, which is by the double exit door, and you'll reach into this gray box. Inside the gray box is a small remote that has an on-off switch. You'll then take this remote and put it into the door above any of the buttons. There are two halves to the shelves, the left and the right, so if there's a problem with the left half, put it into one of the shelves on the left half. And all you do is jam it in there and push the button you need. This may take several tries, but you'll get it, don't worry. Continuing on, we have the archives part of Special Collections and Archives. It starts with Berea College Archives, which has all of the documents related to the college. Then you have the Southern Appalachian Archives. Following that, you have items that are restricted. It's okay. Sometimes you'll have to go in there and it may be a little spooky because it says restricted, but you're allowed. The difference is that people in the research room may not be allowed to look at items from here. Mostly it's personnel records or student records from the college. Past the restricted aisle is the Appalachian Sound Archives. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, from records to cassette tapes to DVD, CDs. It's always fun to go look in there. Finally, you have historical collections and unprocessed materials. The shelves take a while, if you can just bear with me. So in this range on the left, you have the historical collections, which look like this. And then on the right, you have all of these large cardboard boxes. And we generally know what's in these, but we haven't cataloged them yet. And they haven't been through processing, and they don't have finding guides. But one day it'll happen. And it's exciting to always have a project to do. Past the stacks is more unprocessed materials, some cool card catalogs. How long has it been since you used one of those? This is a map tray. So if you pull out a drawer, there will be very large maps. My arms are too weak for me to pull that out all the way, but you can use your imagination. Oh look, there's some maps. These items are in process still, and we are working on them. Some of them just need some tweaking. Here are some records that belong in the sound archives. And a nice record player for listening. We have some pictures that have been donated to the archives, and they're pretty much stored back here, but they're all backed up online in our digital archive. These cabinets contain the Berea Citizen. We have every single issue of the Berea Citizen some way. Some of them are the actual copies, which will be in these boxes, and others are on microfilm. Remember that when you get into any cabinet, you should always close it back. On the other side of the big card catalog are some more boxes for processing. And some really cool files. This is another one of those map trays that I showed you that I could not open. This catalog has records for every student from Berea College before we went online. And this is really cool. Some of these are missing because people are working on cataloging projects. But this is what the drawer looks like without revealing any information. There are just lots of cards with student information, where they came from, their grades. Basically everything that the college has ever had, we have somewhere. Now finally, back to those shelves on the wall. These are the vertical files. This first one, all the way in the back, is the biographies. If you look closely, you may notice some of the names, like Billy Ray Cyrus. But what exactly are in these vertical files? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Mostly it's magazines, newspaper clippings, any type of strange clipping artifact that we could have about something. It's all there. So in the biographies, they're clippings about people that are relevant to Appalachia, because that's kind of our thing here. Next to the biographies, you have the Appalachian vertical files, and these are sorted by topic. For example, the environment, forests and forestry, general. The Appalachian files extend all the way. And you should always watch your step while you're here, because I almost tripped. This filing cabinet is full of finding aids for the Southern Appalachian Archives. Finding aids basically tell you what we have in each collection and what's in every single box and every single folder. It takes a lot of work to put one of these together. And all of them, almost all of them, are online now. But we have hard copies of most of the things in the Southern Appalachian Archives in this filing cabinet. Because back in the old days, before we had the internet, it's the only way you could find anything in the archives. We have a refrigerator back here. Not for your lunch. Please do not put your lunch in it. But for moldy items. It happens. Old things get mold. So when you discover something with mold on it, put it in the refrigerator. Well, first, tell somebody. Then they'll put it in the refrigerator, because that should hopefully stop the mold growth. Past the refrigerator are the coal files. This has everything to do with coal. So here are boxes about coal companies, broad form deals, anything you can imagine. The coal files wrap around. Where are the emergency doors? Very useful to know. And then past the coal files are the Berea College vertical files. So these are newspaper clippings or magazine articles or any clipping about Berea College. Next to that is the Berea City vertical files, and these are clippings about Berea City. These very large files have negatives from the photo archives and other collections, and they're usually locked just to safeguard everything. Here we have VHSs and DVDs from the Mountain Collection. People may view them in the reading room. They are not for checking out. We sometimes have a second copy upstairs by circulation for people to check out. But if an item is just special enough, we may only have the one down here, and patrons will have to come into the reading room to view it. And then here are Mountain CDs. As a worker, you'll also need to know about the to-be-shelved area. It is to the right of the door to the reading room. I guess it's to the left if you're in the stacks already. Items placed on carts here are ready to be shelved and go back to their proper home in the stacks. You should always pay attention to which collection it's in, the record number, and the box number. Or if it's a book, the collection, and the Dewey. On the other side of the door to the reading room are boxes, books, files, anything that researchers are currently using. This is the hold shelf. So if you know that someone is working on a long-term project and they'll be back tomorrow or in a few days, you would put the item here. That way you don't have to go back into the stacks and look for it every time they come in. And then there are more glass plate negatives. They're extremely fragile. Do not touch. Always pay attention to signs. And then there are more unprocessed materials. And that is all for the tour of the stacks. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you come back here and explore.